Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you how to remove and repair the light switch on a 55 or 56 Packard. Generally the problem that people have with them is in the rotary switch. As you can see, the linear switch, pulling it back and forth, works fine, but when I try to turn it here, so this is all the way to the left, which is off. Now I turn it to the map lights and they're pretty flickery, and then as you can see on the instrument cluster area to dim it, there's plenty of places that it doesn't work properly. So we're going to fix all that today. The first thing to do is to take the knob off, and you can just turn it to find where the notch is in it and press in there with a screwdriver, then pull the knob straight off. So what you are doing is simply pressing in the metal piece with a screwdriver there, just like that, to move it out of the way. Now on mine, for some reason that's a little messed up, so I have to get in with a pick and just kind of pry it up a little bit first and then press on it with a screwdriver at the same time. But that's pretty uncommon. Usually you can just press it in with a screwdriver, but if you try that and you don't feel anything moving, you'll probably have to pry it up with a pick first. So the next thing we do is we take our lovely specialty tool. Everyone likes to have their specialty tool that's necessary for something, but these are pretty easy to find. You want to just shut your lights off. You can buy them for like 15 bucks. I think the Packard Club sells them. I have to look exactly. I don't remember who exactly sells them. But you want to go ahead and disconnect your battery first, and then the next thing you'll do is just unscrew this. Okay, now our battery is disconnected, so we can just remove the light bezel here by unscrewing this retaining nut. There we go. So we have the bezel taken off there. You can just set that aside, and then there should also be this external tooth lock washer here. Don't lose that like I did in my other car. Be better than me, please. Set that aside, and now you can remove your light switch through the rear. So removing the headlight switch is one of those things that is much easier if you have a prior experience as a contortionist, but we are all just gonna have to do the best we can. Generally, the easiest way is just stick your hand up under the dash and grab it and disconnect the wires, and just try to not think about having to, that it'll be harder when you have to reconnect them later. So now just disconnect all the connections from here and pull the switch out. So I have this instrument cluster pulled from the wreck of the Titanic. I mean from a 1951 Plymouth Cranbrook coupe that was left out in the field for who knows how long, but it actually works great. So we can use this as a light to test our light switch. First I'll demonstrate this one here. And the light switches here work the exact same as ours. You can turn the ignition switch on and then have the backlight, and the more you spin it, the dimmer it becomes. And it doesn't really show up well on camera that it's getting dimmer because the camera adjusts to it. But yeah, we will come back to that, but for now let's take a look at the light switches we have. So I have the one off of my clipper here, which I've already repaired, and the one off of my 400, which is not yet repaired. So to recap what we did, you should be able to just, well, I can demonstrate it with this one because I know it works properly. Stick a screwdriver in here, then the thing will just slide right off. Oops, maybe I didn't pull it enough the first time. Stick a screwdriver in, and the knob will just slide right off. And this one, for whatever reason, it's a bit trickier, so what I have to do just put a pick behind it to kind of pry it out a little bit. Then I can stick the screwdriver in, whoops, and not do that. Stick the screwdriver in and press and then pull. There we go, it comes off just like that. Then we have our specific headlight tool. So you just unscrew this, remove the lock washer. So now we have our headlight switch. The connections that you will need to remove from the car is, this is a, what size is it? I have it right here, 3/8 nut. And then there'll be a connection here, 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 here. This one, I have a jumper here to here, but as far as I'm aware, the wiring harnesses have it where this connection jumps straight to here, and this one is, and the other one's unused. Likewise, I believe only one of these is used. So, what you may notice between these two, the one that's repaired and the one that's not, is there's these screws here instead of rivets, which is something you'll have to do to disassemble this properly to repair it properly. So the first step to disassembly is, it's not required, but you can remove this here just by unscrewing these screws. If your headlight switch has the problem where if you're running with your high beams usually for an extended period of time and they just go out for no reason, a lot of times it's because this 20 amp circuit breaker has gone bad and it will trip earlier than you would want it to, in terms of like less current than you would want it to. So you can just get new ones of these. They sell them at like Napa, the various places, and just mount a new one in if that is the problem you have. You don't even have to disassemble anything. But probably why you're here is because your light switch is flickering. So put this back on to help spin it. Both of these. And you may notice, I'll see if it'll show up on, might not show up on camera, the noise. But on this one that is already repaired, spinning it is pretty much silent here. Man, what? Of course it's gotta be difficult. I am on camera. Can't nothing be easy. There we go. So spinning this here, obviously there's a bit of a squeak, but it's, other than that, it's silent. Almost silent. You can just barely hear it rubbing, whereas this one is much louder. And here it's very scratchy because it's rubbing against the corrosion there. So without further ado, here is the repair process. This one's actually kind of dirty too. Probably could clean it up while it's apart. Though I'm not sure that I will, because it's not going to hurt anything on the outside there. So the first thing you want to do is there's these 3 points here. You need to take bend at least 2 of them away to allow this thing to open up here. A lot of times the easiest way to do that is to put it on a table. Just take a screwdriver and start pushing. That one should be enough there. Same thing with here. There we go. So now that those 2 are off, we can carefully remove this thing just by kind of wiggling it off the 3rd piece. So you'll notice these are your headlight contacts here, and there's this triangular piece to make contact. So when you have this pushed all the way in, your triangle here is here, 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 but there's no contact here, so nothing's making contact. When you have it 1 click out, you are here, 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 so you're providing from this power rail to this connection, this connection. So this connection here is your ignition switch light, and this also powers your front running lights, like where your front turn signals are. This connection here powers the rear running lights, and then if you have a senior car, it's also the side marker lamps, like the side courtesy lights. And then you also have the jumper to here, which is your dimmer switch for your instrument panel lights. So of course the second position we know is the running light position. That's what it is. And then when you have it all the way out, your headlights turn on. So your ignition switch and your front running lights turn off because these 2 are making contact now. The rest of your running lights are still on. This goes straight to your headlight switch for your lower high beams, so your headlights are on now. Instrument panel lights, of course, are still on. So knowing all that, we can inspect this here. You just want to take a look at, look for excessive wear. Normally the contacts and this little kind of bakelite piece don't wear quite the exact same rate, so when you pull it out, you kind of hear this like clack clack that kind of feels like it shouldn't be there. But there's not really a great way to fix that I'm aware of, so kind of just have to live with it. The rest of this just comes out here. I try and avoid getting grease on my hands or getting things on my somewhat dirty table. And then this piece just drops out. There we go. So once this is out, then you can disassemble through the rest of this dimmer switch here. You can leave this in for now, and what we're gonna do is drill these rivets out, and you notice here that this thing is already loosey-goosey, which makes this thing just feel even worse. I mean, like, look how much play there is here, and part of it is that these things are shaking around. So what you wanna do is very carefully take an oversized drill bit, and then just very, very carefully drill off the face of the rivet, and then you can just take some type of small punch or just a pick or anything like that and punch the rivet through. And this is the rivet from the other headlight switch, so you can see how the face of it was drilled off there, how the face of it was drilled off, and we just removed it that way. So I'm gonna do that and come back. All right, so after maybe 20 minutes, 10 minutes per rivet, I got the rivets taken out. The best drill bit to use is roughly a 1/8 or a 9/64 to get them drilled out, I think. Why it's good to leave this shaft in is so when the things are out, you don't accidentally have little springs and things flying all around your shop. I also should mention the hardware you need to put it back together is 632 by 1/2 screws with some nuts. You want to have some lock washers. I have internal toothed lock washers, but it really doesn't matter. External, split tooth, pretty much anything works. You just want something to preload the this ceramic piece here so that you're not putting too much stress directly on it. You're also going to want to have some Loctite. Loctite probably isn't actually necessary, but you may as well put some on so you don't have to do this whole thing again to just tighten up these little nuts here. So moving on, we can disassemble this whole thing here. Probably the easiest way is to pull this halfway out, then take some pliers and grab this spring out of here. And that's also against a piece. And you can now, once the rivets are out, pull this thing kind of out of the way to help this spring get out here. Oops, my rod it's not far enough out of the way. There we go. You can also just yank this out and pull the ceramic thing up and everything will just go flying out, but it's not particularly recommended. And there's also this contact here and the mating piece. And now we can take this out, and this comes apart here. I just like to push in and kind of pull out like this, but then just kind of do it inside of my hand so things kind of avoid flying everywhere. There we go. So we have the ceramic piece. There's this kind of indexing limiter, whatever the thing is. It's the thing that keeps it from spinning in a whole circle, is this little piece. And it goes into this piece of plastic. There's only one way it can go. It's like that, with this spring on it. Like that. Easy as pie. So, what you want to do is a thorough inspection of these parts for corrosion. Obviously, we have a fair amount of corrosion on these, and that's why they're not working very well. So, it's important also to understand how it's supposed to work. So, for this here, you have the off position here. This is your map light. This is full brightness instrument lights, and then the dimmer. So what you have, let me get close to the camera here. It's hard for me to see my camera display when I'm recording a video. Let's use a little pointer. So there is this contact here. So obviously you have from here, it goes across a jumper. Now I actually made this jumper, to be clear. Normally on the car, that's part of the wiring harness. I just made it for testing. The little connectors to use if you want to make your own, it's some of these, and I just pulled the insulation off before installing them. Dorman bullet terminals. So here, this goes through here, connects to this contact. So this contact actually goes to this plate here, which is, I can see right here, this plate. And it gets picked up by this little contact here, which on this piece is this little thing. And, or no, I have it, which one is which? Yes, that's right. This little thing, and then it goes out on this side. It makes contact here to turn on the instrument lights. And then this wire resistor here, embedded in the ceramic with some glue, is tied directly onto this. So it goes pretty much seamlessly from here to start dimming, and you could have the dimming effect, of course, on the lights. Now you'll notice that this here does not make any contact when it's on this second position. So there, what's happening in the back, and it's probably just easier to show you on this one. So this is situated like this. And then there is this contact here. So for this one, which side is which? So when it's when the light switch is off, it's here. And then when you turn it to the map light, it goes here. And then when the instrument lights are on, it's here, and you can keep spinning around. As you can see, it goes from here all the way back to here. So what's important to understand about this is that this is actually a grounding connection. So for your map lights, those all have power from the main body harness, and they get turned on when the switch they are connected to is grounded. So it's gonna be this switch, it can be the door switches, or for the rear map light, it can be the switch on the B pillar. Though of course for the rear lights for the sedans that have the switch on the B pillar, they're not controlled by this. For the hard tops, the rear lights are controlled by this. So this is the return power that should go to ground from the light, is what I'm saying. And when it's here, it goes through here, through the contact, and into here. And then this, with the spring that it has, actually it doesn't really go into here. It's just through the contact and then through the spring, and then it enters this the case, and just returns to ground through the grounded dashboard. So it's important to understand how those work, and if you're only having problems with one in particular, which one it is. Now, of course, we had problems with both the map light and with the instruments. So we want to take a look at both of these here. So the short of it is that the essential corrosion that you need to get off to have everything work well is you need to have all the corrosion off of here. You need to make sure that the corrosion is off of this. This is the one that pairs with the map light. Whoops, I already had it right there. So I'll put this together. Off of this terminal, off of here, make sure this is clean. Now this is clearly already clean from wearing against the spring. And this is the spring for it here. So just give this a nice quick polish. And make sure the casing that it sits against is also rust free, though these really don't tend to rust that much. So that should already be good. That will get your map lights working. I also like to take some airbrush cleaning brushes, which are just these little tiny things, just like this, and clean out these sockets here, just like this here. Really, it shouldn't be necessary, but you know, can't hurt. Oops, it fell off. It fell off. Okay, pick this back up. So that'll get your map lights good. To get the instrument cluster lights good, you need to get the front of this thing to a nice polish and make sure this is a nice polish, which usually these are not the problem because they kind of wear it themselves. You want to make sure this is polished, and especially, so this, you can see kind of the front of it is polished. You need to make sure that even the sides are polished. Otherwise, when you turn from the on setting to the dimmer setting, it'll go off for a little bit. So even though this is clearly already kind of polished here, you want to make sure that the sides are polished also. And then of course you want to make sure that this contact is polished and give the wire round resistor here a good once over. Though it is important to note that usually if you, like we noticed on my car, if the lights flicker off during the resistive area, if they're flickering off here, usually the problem is corrosion here and not corrosion on the resistor, unless of course you literally see this being corroded, but usually it's this. So what we can simply do, where's my steel wool at? You can take some steel wool or sandpaper, just something of that sort. I do have enough sandpaper here, so I might use that instead. Of course, sandpaper, you want to do something pretty fine, like I have 2000 grit sandpaper here. So I'm going to get these sanded up and come back to you. So just a progress update here. You can see the difference between the unpolished and the polished. So, yep, something like that. All right, now we have things pretty well cleaned up. I'm only cleaning up the important things just to save some effort. Probably it is worth giving this a bit of a once over here, just because this is where the headlight switch clicks around. So if this is rough, you'll kind of be able to feel it. So just making it a bit smoother would be ideal, but really it's not strictly necessary for the switch to work right. Likewise, you can put just a tiny amount of grease there to smoothen it up. Might need to go grab my grease. All right, I dabbed just the tiniest amount of grease on here. So what I have is I polished up right in here. Make sure don't just polish the tip, also polish the edges. Maybe you get closer to the camera, polish the edges there. Likewise, I also polished the flat and the edges. Same thing here. The edges aren't really important because it doesn't go over any bumps. Here, especially the edges here. And then just give this thing a once over. And then polished up all the contacts here. So I got that contact, this here, this entire ring needs to be polished very well. This takes forever. And then you want to just kind of do a once over on this to get rid of any surface rust or anything like that. Now we can put this together, put this back together and test it out. So reassembly is we can just, let's see, what's the correct order for this? Okay, so for reassembly here, you just take, it's this, whoops, this metal piece here. It only goes on one way into this black retainer. It's got a spring on it. And then this here. And then you want to take the front side of your ceramic, stick all that on there. and then sandwich that right in here. No biggie, not too difficult. And then what I'm gonna do is put my screws in. I'm gonna come back later and put the not set screws, lock washers on. So this one is quite annoying and can take a while. I really don't have a great way to do it. You want to have some little pliers, and that's about the best you're going to be able to do trying to get this thing back in. So look, I'm already having a hard time. So obviously you want to make sure this thing is in place first. Now we take this other part here. This needs to go right in the middle. So again, best bet is to grab your little bitty pliers and just try your best to get it in there. You want to get it kind of centered up. There we go. Now what you want to do is take your rod, make sure the rod end with the cutout like this is going in, and then the one with just a simple notch, that is on the outside. Otherwise it will not work and you will be sad. So what you want to do is get this contact on, sitting on the rod there, which is, take a pick or something, it's probably the easiest way. You can usually kind of just get it, centered up, kind of. And with a bit of practice and skill and luck and all the necessary things, kind of just get it to sit on there and get it through there eventually. There we go. So I got mine through. Now, we're not even done yet. You have to get this spring in there. Just a little bit farther. Kind of pick our spring up and get it over the rod there. Perfect. Perfect. And then you gently want to twist the rod around to get everything indexed. There we go. Now we have it installed. So the next thing to do is to simply, well, actually now we can test out our functionality here. So what I have here is my jumper cables connected to my Plymouth instrument cluster. So we can test out our switch now. So I have this first position, now the second position, and now the dimmer functionality. So as we can see, it's very consistent. There's no flickering at all. And then we were back at, there we go, full brightness there. And we can see I'm turning it between full brightness and the beginning of the dimmer, and there's no flickering at all. If you don't sand the edges of the little contact, like I was saying, then you will get flickering there. And then we can change around here our connections to test the map light. So these are our connections for the map light. This is the last terminal and the ground on the light switch. So we can just turn it to the map light setting now. So that's all the way counterclockwise. First notch for the map light. Works perfectly there. We can jiggle it, and there's no flickering at all, anything like that. So this appears to be a good success. Of course, if you don't have this exact method of testing, of course, no one will. You can just test with some type of you know, low current type of load. Or you could just reinstall it in the car and test it with the car. So now the fun part, which is reassembly. So turn my light on there. Get all my wires out of the way. So what we want to do now, I will go ahead and put on some Loctite and lock washers. There we go. You're always going to have a little bit of play just between the shaft and this plastic piece, or between the shaft and this piece in the back. But you know, what else can you do? So for the reassembly of the rear section here, take this thing, just drops in and indexes with the shaft, of course. Then I'm going to take this spring, which goes facing down, and then just this thing going on top of it. This only goes one way. One of these notches is wider than the other, so pay attention accordingly. It'll go on perfectly easy here. You just kind of got to balance it on top and actually almost put it on backwards. Don't do that, otherwise your light switch will never work at all. You wonder where you went wrong. Where you went wrong. This thing just goes on here. Let's get it back on the same way. That thing's already coming off. Oops. Come on now. Let's see this thing. It goes on that orientation. And then our little triangle is stuck up here now. So we'll take that off and put it back. There we go. Just get that thing to get itself situated in there. Should be good. There we are. Perfect. Now, the fun part is trying to get these things set back in place. All right, now that we have it reinstalled, we can test the switch operation. So it's all the way to the left. Here we go. Now we have the map light on. Now we have the dashboard lights on, the instrument cluster, I mean. You can see our dimming function works perfectly there. Nice, just like brand new. Then we can turn our map lights back on and everything off. Nice, a resounding success.